Folks, it's Anne reporting live from the You Might Know Her From Patreon. Damien and I listened to the audiobook version of Liza Minnelli's memoir, Kids, Wait Till You Hear This, and we dive deep into it. The full episode is over on the Patreon, but we wanted to make sure that you all had a sneak peek here on the main feed. So let it whet your appetite, and if you want to listen to the rest of the episode, follow us on over at patreon.com/you might know her from. But in the meantime, let's get into it. Folks, welcome to Liza Minnelli Book Club. We're here, we're queer, get used to it. We promised this, and here it is. We have dove into Liza Minnelli's memoir, which, in case you're not aware, is entitled Liza Minnelli Kids, Wait Till You'll Hear This, a Memoir. Great. What a shocking title. Now, we
It's called
have
Wait Till You Hear This? Like
Kids,
till?
Wait Till.
Okay.
Yes. It's called Kids Wait Till You Hear This. So I have the physical copy and I started reading that and I said, you know what, I want to do the audiobook because it's Liza. This feels like an important thing. And so I got the audiobook and then I said, wow. And we have a text chain called Barbara Book Chain, which is when we all started listening to Barbara's audiobook a couple years ago. We all were locked in. And those that had started Liza's audiobook were like, it is a different journey. And I will say that I think we just got to get it up out of the way first. Is like, you told me that you thought you had a theory on what you thought was happening with the audiobook, because I will say it's worth your time. Don't let this like opening fool you. The book is definitely worth listening to, I think, even in spite of this, but it's a hill you have to get over in order to make it through. So if you're currently listening and you're struggling, I hear you, you got to push through.
Completely. Yeah, my theory is, and I know this based, or I know, I suspect this based on having worked with Karamo Brown. He did like voiceover for Waze, like the directions
Oh,
app,
okay.
and I know that they like brought him in to like basically record like I don't know, like 350 words, I think, to be like turn left, turn right, like all of the things so that they can make him say whatever he says when you're driving. And so my suspicion with Liza is that they had her record a bunch of words, or maybe she read a couple chapters or something, and then like it's AI put together so that she didn't have to do the whole book. That is my educated guess, and I think based on continuing to listen to it, that is true. And yeah, and I agree that it has been very difficult for me to get through the book, because I think that three things are true. One, it is worth your time, because I feel like once you really get in, I think because of like the stuff about her parents, in particular Judy, are more revealing than, I will say that they were more revealing than I expected, but also based on you, who I would say is the closest I am to any, I'll call you a Judy scholar. I feel like it's like more revealing than you expected it to be. So I feel like that is a like cosign to me of like, oh, it is revealing. And two, yeah, and also like it's the juice of like her career and the BTS of all of those iconic films like Cabaret and whatever, like her relationship with Scorsese in New York, all of that is so great. But I think that one, the AI stuff is hard because she says things like VerDON, but then also will say Gwen VerDON, and I'm like, well, why didn't the editor or whomever was the audio engineer like clock that?
Right.
Two, it just doesn't feel like anybody edited the book. Like she says like green lighted instead of greenlit one point, and I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. Like that's a weird thing to say a project was green lighted. That's not grammatically correct. Also,
Right.
she says at one point like gazillionaire, and I'm like, it feels like an editor would have helped find a better word choice than having like an A-list movie icon say gazillionaire in her memoir. Like, again, I'm being nitpicky and I don't want to be an asshole, but I just think, and like also, though, it's like she references all of these things and she's like, you can watch the clip on YouTube.
Oh my
And
God,
I,
there's so
like
much talk of
like
going and
seven
watching a clip on YouTube. I was like, Liza, this needs to be evergreen. Who knows if YouTube will exist in 20 years? Do you know what I mean? Like
well,
this
and
is
also
exhausting.
one of the beautiful things that I thought Barbara's book did for the audio version was like it actually like took audio recordings of hers and like would incorporate them. And I was like, there's so
Mm,
many opportunities for like Liza's early TV appearances, and she talks about like, oh my god, no one recorded Chicago, but thankfully somebody put it on YouTube. And I'm like, why didn't you just include that YouTube audio here? Like, you could have paid like the publisher could have paid that person like $1,000 to like take it. Also, it's probably illegally put up there, so it's like you probably have no rights to it anyway. I just like find that stuff like feels like they left opportunity on the table and it feels like a money grab, but it is an icon talking about her career with her very famous family and very famous relationships and very like famous and iconic projects. So in that way, it is worth it. So we're 5 minutes in. That I'm gonna try to leave my critiques
Yeah,
there.
that's a good call. I want to expound on what you've said. And so if you're new to Liza Minnelli, welcome. If you're an old head like me, I feel like that's what Damien said. This is revealing in ways that I thought Liza Minnelli would never put on the record. She has what she likes to refer, I think Kate Thompson, her mom's best friend, and
Godmother.
her godmother, person who taught Lena Horne and Frank Sinatra and Judy Garland how to sing and how to sell a song at MGM. She gave Liza a lot of her like signature moves. Um, she referred to keeping things as crisp as lettuce, and that has to do with the sort of MGMifying of someone's personal life. And Liza does get into this in the book, and I thought that was actually really interesting, is about like when it turned for her and when she decided like I'm no longer going to give like semi-truthful interviews to the press, because once you do let the press into your personal life, like there's no turning back. And obviously there was so much made of Liza's struggles with drugs and alcohol and her weight gain and her public persona and the stuff with her mom. I totally get it, but I just never thought anytime you get an interview with Liza Minnelli, it's always crisp as lettuce. It's always her reflecting on her mom's memory with very rose-colored glasses. And I think there is something to that, because I think a lot of people like to talk about Judy Garland like she's a great tragedy and like what a sad legacy that she left for her daughters and son. Here's one thing I wish the book got more into. Joey left. Well, there's some Lorna stuff that's great, but I feel like the fact that Liza goes deep at the very beginning of the book about her relationship with Judy and what it was like growing up in the household when Judy was struggling at MGM, how much Liza adored Vincent Minnelli, her father, like one of the most famous directors of all time. That comes clear. That comes through crystal clear in the
I
book.
also
But
love that she's
she
like, sorry to interrupt you, but I love that she's like, I called him daddy, but for the purposes of this book, I'll call him Papa. And I was like, why?
she said that she couldn't even say she couldn't even say daddy without crying. I said, "This is AI really taking an inch when you're taking a mile when they need an inch." But I was kind of obsessed with the fact that, she starts early in her childhood and she gets into the fact that like at some point she accidentally like kicked a boot at Judy Garland, and this is like a formative moment in Liza's entire life. She references it throughout the book multiple times, and I'm wondering like did she have a therapist at any point that helped her like find this as like this was the moment that her childhood changed forever, and she re-references it into her adult life as like that this was the dynamic between her and her mom when she accidentally kicked her mom with her shoe and then her mom went off on her and she
For
was
sure.
scared of her mom. It's very interesting. So the fact that Liza even is touching on psychology to me is fascinating, because the woman has never mentioned trauma or psychology like an entire 60, 70-year career. So she's 80 years old. She released the book on her 80th birthday. And this is sort of like her swan song, because her public appearances are managed by none other than Michael Feinstein, who she is very close friends with. And it seems like he helped craft the book based on a series of conversations that they recorded over the last like 20, 30 years that were all taped, and then an editor put them all together. So I'm hopeful that this is from Liza's point of view as much as possible. But I think the fact that she gets into her relationship with her mom speaks to the fact that, like, it is from Liza, because I think she just wanted to set the record straight a little bit. So
I also think that if I can,
please,
I
please.
wonder, like my thought is that it's 2026 at the time of this recording, and like we're just getting further and further from the things. Like I feel like you and me are more of an exception than the rule in terms of like the legacy of old Hollywood and
Yeah.
MGM and like Judy Garland. And so I think that also Liza Minnelli is thinking, I'm 80. This is important. It's like important that like my legacy not be, an addict that I am a great artist. I made an impression. I am like the what is the word? Like progeny of these, other incredible iconic artists. And so like I think that to me she is in it because it has maybe something about her own mortality and like wanting to make sure that her own story isn't like she became like a recluse because she like had I don't I'm trying to be like give her grace, but like that it's not like she went away in hiding because she was like no longer like with it because of her like addiction or whatever or old age or whatever it is,
Sure.
like that she got to like say things on her own terms and got to crystallize her own legacy and also like yeah like continue her parents legacy because the further and further we get away from things, it's like who's talking about Sarah, is it Sarah Bernhardt, what is her fucking name?
Yeah, Sarah Bernhardt, babe. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like we're getting further and further away from Judy as, like it was on this podcast that we talked about, and we talked about it with one of our Patreon listeners, I think a bit in I can't remember if it was like in Patreon DMs or if it was on Instagram, but I think it was our pal of the show Michael who was talking about like what it was to have monoculture and like the Wizard of
Mm,
Oz, and I feel like I can't remember, and I forgive me if I'm misremembering or conflating like conversations, but I think it was just about like this listener was saying and they were a teacher and their students like weren't familiar with the Wizard of Oz, and I was like, oh my god, it like made like rocked my world because the Wizard of Oz is like an old movie for us, but like so it makes sense that like kids who are like 14 now, it's like
like
you
Freaky
know
Friday is an old movie to them,
right
meaning the Lindsay
like
Lohan one is an old
correct.
movie to them.
Correct. So it's like we just like I feel like we're talking about, like I don't know, Birth of a Nation and like as
Right,
like,
right.
like the first film and they're like, "Oh my god, like the Disney Renaissance was like a long time ago." And it's like we grew up with the Disney Renaissance. Anyway, blah 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 blah. All of this
Yeah,
to say I think that I think that Liza's psychosis, if I was to analyze it, was like I need to make sure my legacy is intact, and also like it's important that like maybe I'm honest about what like give more dimension to my parents' legacy
mhm.
rather than let my mom just be like a great star who died a tragic life, but also a complicated person who was kind of mean and competitive with me, but also like a great artist and who loved me, but also like maybe felt complicated about my own successes. And like she didn't even get to see. Did she see Liza win the Tony for Flora? She did.
That seems like that's right? Meaning Flora,
But
let me
like
look up when Flora,
Judy
yeah.
never won a Tony. Judy never won an Oscar.
She won a
So
special Oscar, but yes.
was a kid, right?
Yeah.
But she didn't like win a competitive Oscar. I mean,
Correct,
and she didn't
correct.
see Liza win a competitive Oscar, I suppose. But
Yeah, so
she got
Flora the Red Menace was 1965, so yes. What's interesting is that I don't remember
mm-mm,
Liza mentioning anything about her did she
mom's
take her
reaction
dad to
to
the
her.
ceremony? I don't remember if she
Yes,
did.
I think, or
She
she
took
took him
her
to the
dad to the
Oscars.
Oscars,
I
yeah.
can't remember the Tonys. Who she took? I
I
don't think
think
she.
that she tells this fascinating story, and I can't remember at this point what celebration it was, but that her mom throws her a party at some point for an opening or a win of some kind. Maybe it was the Tonys, maybe it was something in London. And then Liza found out after the fact that she had billed Liza's credit card for it. And it was like she had thrown her this big like party and it was like 10 grand on Liza's credit card. And you're like, "Ooh, okay." And she's like, "I don't even care about the money. I just probably would have been like, okay, sure. Thanks for letting me know." But yeah, it's interesting. I think the beginning of the book, doesn't it open with like the Lady Gaga slander? I was so shocked about the opening of the book where she sort of frames the book with the Oscars and her coming back for the anniversary. Was it the 50th anniversary of
Is that right?
Cabaret?
Is that how the book opens?
She talks about it at the opening about how she was like thrown under the bus by Lady Gaga and how like upset she was about it. And I was like, holy shit. And those were the headlines that came out about the book. And I think Lady Gaga got a lot of good press. And I think I maybe had this instinct too, which I regret that, like, once again, Lady Gaga, the good Italian girl, taking care of Tony Bennett, taking care of our like musical elders, taking Liza Minnelli out in a wheelchair. And Liza's like, I didn't need to be in that wheelchair. If you know me, I love to slouch in a director's chair. Which is what RuPaul, thank God, gave her when she awarded her the Icon Award at the finale of Drag Race. But I was very fascinated by her shitting on Lady Gaga and being like, "I've never gotten an apology for it." Obsessed.
It's
But
interesting, that's, like, the only real headline I had seen about the book aside from her canceling, like, other engagements after her LA one, and it's interesting, I mean, because I feel like there is revealing stuff, but I guess maybe to my point, like, does anyone care that she's, like, revealing things about, like, Judy Garland? Because to me, I'm like, "Where are those headlines?" Like, I feel
I
like she
know, it's interesting because I feel like she really has never spoken negatively in public about Judy, and I feel like she has some nuance to it, and there is perspective there about substance use disorder, which we haven't really touched on yet. And that is also the beginning of the framing of the book about how, she passed out in front of her apartment on Lexington Ave. And
Yes.
I didn't know that story. That was shocking. And the number of times that she had lied about health stuff when it really was, I mean, obviously, substance use disorder is also health stuff, but her encephalitis stuff and Lorna coming to her rescue, she frames her relationship with her mom a lot about substance use disorder and how there was such a lack of knowledge about it when Judy was coming up, and how of course MGM put her on drugs from a very young age to manage her weight and all of this. So I think she complicates the narrative, but also it's just like really, when we get to
She's like
Liza's
she's
early
like, "I
career
said I
and then
was
we
drinking Grand Marnier." I was
yeah,
obsessed with that. I didn't know
that was so
did you know that was, like, her drink of choice or alleged drink
no,
of choice? I thought that was such
no.
a funny specific.
She was like, maybe it was a rum and coke or maybe yeah, she loved it's clear that Liza loves wine and a sweet drink. She's a real Italian. She,
Yeah,
strikes me
and
as
the way you throw that around
I
is
love it,
so
Damien. I love Italian Americans because of you. She really identifies strongly as Italian American.
yeah, I know, because she's an icon. She's on the
What is the Italian drink that's red wine and coke? What is that called?
oh my god, it is like the Tony Soprano drink. I can't remember what they call it, but, it
Yeah.
is I
I feel
have
like
drank it
Liza
before, and
must have drank it. I feel like she must
oh,
have drank it.
well, it's like it's interesting. I don't know. She maybe was too high class for it. I feel like it's a real like work.
Mm,
It's maybe like a more working class Italian drink. Like it feels like it to me. It's like I think of it as like my Uncle Vince drink, even though I don't know that he drank it. I think it's like an old Italian man drink.
interesting. Okay.
But
I
that
mean,
may
I
not
was
be
really
true. But that's my
shocked
experience.
to hear Liza even admit to cocaine use, honestly. It's clear that Liza was doing cocaine. We all know Liza was doing cocaine, but the fact that she says she was doing cocaine for me was a real shock because she's literally been like, "I can't even take an Advil." Like that has been her company line for many years. And so I feel like the fact that she said it was a real sigh of relief, and she opens the book like admitting to deep substance use disorder. And she says at the beginning of the book, she has been sober for like 11 years, which at this point puts her back at 2015, which is not that long. I mean, every day is a good day that you're sober, and I'm happy for her, but like
Well,
that is not
that
the
means that
narrative that she had been
Liza.
building previously.
What was her last Broadway appearance? Her last concert, Liza the Palace. Is that what it was?
I believe that's right. Yeah.
So, like, that means that she was not yet sober then, or was or what became like,
Like
fell
had
off the wagon.
relapses. Yeah.
Thank you, I couldn't think of the word. Like, she had, like, had a relapse after it, or was like, I was like, "Oh, like, that means she was, like, not sober in her, like, late 60s," like, that's
Right. It takes a
pretty
toll on your
shocking.
body. Yeah.
Completely, and also, I know that I know I said I was gonna stop with the critiques of, like, the book and the AI of it all, but I do wanna say that the thing I thought about with the cocaine stuff is like it is weird, like the way the audio editing is like there's like a lot of her happening, and also the way like it breaks sentences up where it'll be like you can watch the clip on YouTube, and I'm like what. But also there in some parts, and I really was like listening for it after I heard it the first time, you can really hear her be like sniff, and I like a nasal drip, and I thought that was again so fascinating that someone didn't clean those up because it's not prevalent, and then suddenly I heard it a lot, and then it goes away, and I was like, what is this?
Right. Like, could they not have given it to us and we would have cleaned it up in Audacity for them? Like,
Well, I was gonna
who
say like
was
this is
doing
like
quality control?
correct.
I want to talk about like there's a lot of early stuff that's really fun. I think about like her life in Hollywood as a young kid growing up with like Mia Farrow and Candy Bergen and like her Hollywood friends. I thought that was all great. But it gets kind of dark pretty fast, and then as Liza's star starts to rise and she does Best Foot Forward and then Flora the Red Menace, and eventually she gets asked to do the Palladium with Judy in London, and that
Mm.
is such a huge marker in her career in terms of like Liza getting I think at that point, I have to check my timeline, but she had already done the Judy Garland show, I believe, which was
Yeah,
1963.
I believe that's right on the timeline.
And her episode of the Judy Garland show, if you haven't watched it, where she does two numbers and I believe two duets, dances, is so great. It's such a fantastic showcase. And then she also appears on the Judy
The
Garland
Christmas
Christmas
episode.
special,
Yeah, that's so good.
which was part of the Judy Garland show. And she brings on her boyfriend at the time, Tracy, who was a dancer, I believe, in Damn Yankees, and very handsome,
I love
beautiful
that.
man.
I just watched that like maybe 2 Christmases ago with my mom, and I remember you making some sort of comment about the boyfriend to me, and then I loved that she like referenced him because I feel like I think she said he was like older than her, and like I forget what she said about him, but
Maybe they were in Best Foot Forward. I should fact check myself, but they did Steam Heat, I think, together on the Judy Garland Christmas show. So maybe that's why I was thinking Damn Yankees. He was a dancer, I think, in Best Foot
well,
Forward.
Steam Hit is Pajama Game, babe.
Oh my god, you're right. Fuck me, I'm confusing all of my great dance numbers. You're right, it's Pajama Game. Liza is such a star. I think that's what I was trying to get at, is like, it's clear that Judy recognized her insane talent. She was getting co-signed by lots of other places, but you can see her talent start to grow as like a late teenager, where she has this huge voice, but she doesn't quite know what to do with it. And she clearly has charisma and star power on camera and is really lovable. There's something really lovable about young Liza on camera that just bleeds through the screen. So Judy obviously notices this, but it's like at the Palladium, the concert footage is very grainy, but there is a whole DVD of it. It's great. It's wild. Judy sings, then Liza sings, and they sing together. But Liza talks about this moment in her book about where like she says that she went on stage with her mother and she left the stage with Judy Garland, and she noted the moment where it was like Judy was vying for the audience's attention because she saw how much the audience was loving Liza. I think Liza does Gypsy in My Soul at the Palladium, and it's just so good. And some of the notes are a little pitchy, but there's just something that's undeniable about young Liza Minnelli. And this is what I love about Nepo babies, is where you're like, is it genetic? Is it that she would have been this person regardless of having been raised in this, system with her parents being who they are? But like, when you see somebody that young have that much charisma, you're like, there's got to be some sort of hereditary thing happening here, because she is just like a little cannonball. It's like undeniable. It's like clear that she's going to be a star once she gets a handle on her talent. And you watch it happen at the London Palladium, where Judy recognizes it too. And you're like, oh shit, now they're in competition with each other.
And she says, "Get her off my fucking stage." I was like shook by that. Okay, so here's my question, and I want to just put this in context for the listeners because I don't think this is, and I don't think I am outing you in a way that like we haven't talked about it in some way, but like you are a person in my life who like knew and loved Judy Garland in a very deep way, and more than any other person that I would like. I feel like there are other people who probably know more, and you know some
Yeah.
of them, but you know her, Judy's body of work, and Liza's very well. You've read many biographies about Judy. You've seen many, whatever, the things that are there. You've seen all of her films, I believe, and all of her show. Was there anything that like surprised or shocked you? Like, I know that this is the most that Liza has ever been honest about
Mm,
her relationship with Judy, but was there anything that you had not heard through the grapevine, through through message boards, through biographies that like John Fricke or other like
yeah.
scholars have written? Was there anything that you were like, fuck, I didn't know that, or like, wow, that paints Judy in a way that is truthful but also was maybe sad for you as such a big fan?
All right, folks, if you want to listen to the rest of the episode, you can find it over on patreon.com/you might know her from. That's where Damien and I add everything else that we get into: book clubs, movie clubs, recaps, shooting the shit, talking about all the mess that we can't talk about on the main feed. So we hope you enjoyed this little appetizer of Liza Minnelli's memoir, and we hope that you listen to it and then join us over on the Patreon. Thanks so much.